coordinator.
Well, today I do have both in front of me, kind of. So I'm going to try my best to be self-sufficient, Jessica. Thank you so much for even saying you'll try. All right, so we're at 9:59, which is awesome. Nice.
We've got a fellow
yes
counselor listening. Thank you. So glad you're here.
Celia, I hope I'm saying that right.
From Sneed, Alabama. I just learned where Sneed, Alabama is the other night when we had tornadoes. It was on the map. So I know where
you're okay.
Yeah. I hope everybody's okay.
All right. And on Facebook, I see Christina's watching. I see Stanley is watching. Thank you guys for joining us. Again, in these comments, please feel free to put your name, your website, your business address, your business name, what you do. If you want to give us a snippet, whatever, that's completely fine. Thank you, Celia. I said your name correctly. That makes me very happy when I get it right. All right. So it is officially 10 o'clock, and I believe in being punctual because especially these days, time is very valuable. So we're going to go ahead and get started. We are recording this for replay on YouTube, and you can go back and watch it if you come in the middle, or if you just need to jet out, don't worry, you can watch it later. So let me welcome everyone, our Facebook family, everyone here in the Zoom with us, and for whoever's watching the replay. Welcome to our community conversations. My name is Jackie Jones. I am the community engagement manager for Create Birmingham. I also own a marketing firm, One Degree Marketing. And today we have with us a wonderful person who is going to talk with us about something that I feel very strongly about. I think anyone who knows me knows this, which is mental health and small business. Those two things have got to work together. This is Miss Melissa Scott-Dixon, who was recently married. Congratulations. So I normally in this, we're very laid back. I'm not going to do some long drawn out formal introduction of you. I'm going to let you introduce yourself so that you can point out what's important to you, say what you want to say about who you are and what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. So I am primarily a counselor, therapist in private practice in Birmingham. I'm also a yoga teacher. So for years I led yoga teacher trainings and really helped people kind of shape their business of yoga, how they were going to teach and offer yoga. I've also had the pleasure of being a facilitator of co-starters with Create Birmingham. Love my relationship with Create. So I have one foot primarily in the mental health and wellness space, but then tend to kind of have like little toes in other spaces, like working with small business owners and doing some mentoring around that. So this is just like a perfect intersection for me to talk about today. A lot of my clients are small business owners or kind of working the gig economy lifestyle. So I'm really excited to talk about all this today. And Jackie, I appreciate you being such an advocate for mental health amongst small business owners. That's super important.
It is so very important. And I think that I was telling you that I had done a TEDx talk about just this mental struggle that comes with the journey that no one talks about.
Yes.
And that we've got to stop doing that, because for whatever reason, we tell people everything else, but we do not tell them this is going to be mentally hard for you at some point, and a lot goes into that. But that's pre-pandemic, right? It's like I already felt that way before we even had all of these other factors, which is crazy to me that we're dealing with this now. It's just, it feels so unreal. It feels like we're in a sitcom episode. Hi, Kat.
So I should have warned you, there's like a 90% chance that a cat will be on my desk at some point. So
hello there.
Maggie, she's got thoughts also. So, work from home life, I'm sure.
Listen, my 3-year-old is with Nana, and so you will not hear screaming and quotes from Zootopia today.
Okay.
And, I'm sorry you have to miss out on that. But so we were saying that was pre-pandemic, right? Where we already felt like mental health and small business was already super important to marry those things and recognize that there's a space that we have to consider for entrepreneurs, small business owners, and even anyone really who's working to push a startup or a small business forward. Right. And so first, let me say to everyone who is watching both here in Zoom and on Facebook, if you have questions, drop them. I'm going to try to get to them, of course, as I can, as I see them. But in the meantime, I'll just ask some questions and we'll see if that prompts other people to have questions. So the very first thing I kind of want to ask is, and this is, I want to start with kind of what I feel like is the most popular issue people are having, which is the balance of now being at home with work, and, you know, working, and if you have kids, if you have cats, if you have whatever else you have at home. And in some places, we know that people have talked about if there's been any like abuse in your home or whatever, just having to be at home, trying to still work or pivot or figure out what you're doing. What are some dangers of that, and what are some things that we could be doing to overcome them?
Wow, so much. So, you know, what I keep saying to people who I'm working with right now is like, everything is different. Like we can't deny that. We can't pretend. We can't put expectations around it other than, oh my gosh, everything's different. You know, so many, especially parents right now, you know, having kids at home and trying to work and do the homeschool thing, which I guess now the school year's ending, but then how do you entertain your kids all day and, you know, that kind of stuff. So what I've really been focusing on with people is like, whatever it is that you're feeling and experiencing right now is totally okay and totally normal. So I just kind of want to normalize it off the bat, like whatever level of stress, anxiety, depression, whatever level of like, this is kind of okay. I'm kind of okay with being at home or having more time. Any level of being hard on yourself, like all of it is within the range of normal right now because the situation we're in is so abnormal.
Right.
So the thing that I'm encouraging people to do more than anything is really give themselves grace. Really give yourself permission to kind of feel what you're feeling and permission to not feel normal. So I had a client yesterday who we were talking about depression and anxiety, and she was like, I'm using all my coping skills. I'm, you know, going on walks, I'm talking to friends, I'm, you know, meditating, I'm reading self-help books, like I'm using all my coping skills and I still feel really anxious. And I was like, yeah, that's what works for you when things are normal.
Right. You're using your normal set of skills.
Right. I mean, we might on a good day hit 70% of normal as far as like how we're feeling. So, you know, I want to give people permission to like let themselves feel how they're feeling and not feel like they have to push to be like their normal level of okay and productive.
And so I just wonder, because of course I 100% feel that as a small business owner and a mom, and that's very hard to do. Has there been any, and just based on your own, just seeing in these social media streets, and just clients, people that you've talked with, is there any one thing that seems to be happening to people more than the other? Is it anxiety? Is it depression? Is there anything that seems to be kind of taking the lead in the effect that we're seeing?
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I've said this last month that every week seems to kind of have a theme. You know, the first week there was a lot of like panic and what are we doing? Is everybody okay? And the second week was kind of more of like a low level hum of anxiety.
Yeah.
And then the third week, I think people kind of found their groove. Starting last week and this week, I'm hearing a lot more of people saying that they're just tired. And, you know, fatigue can easily kind of feed into depression. So I think we're going to be riding waves of this as it goes along. I've certainly seen a real mix of anxiety and depression for people, and sometimes that changes day to day. I know for me, sometimes in the morning I feel more anxious, and sometimes at night I feel more depressed. You know, so I think we're all kind of fluctuating in that space. The thing that's starting to creep up for people a little bit more in the last, I would say, week or two is some experiences of like trauma trigger. You know, at first we were all kind of trying to figure out what this is going to be, and now we've been sitting in the stress of this for a little bit. And so I'm hearing about people having more things coming up around like past experiences of maybe where they felt out of control or they felt, you know, periods of long depression. So I think, you know, that's really kind of what I'm holding space for right now with people is okay, at first we were dealing with like right now, and now some old stuff might be coming up, and that's all okay too. You know, that's all normal.
And that's what my next question was going to be, is like, what's an indication? Because some people, don't ever really identify what they're going through as anxiety or depression.
Mhm.
And so I wonder, and I'm careful to use the word they're in denial because, hey, I may think it's one thing, they may think it's something completely different, and that's fine. Their thoughts and their opinions are valid. But the question I have though is, in what ways might depression or anxiety or some of these feelings really show themselves for people?
Yeah, so we would call those like the sneaky symptoms of anxiety and depression. Yeah, and to your point about they may not necessarily be in denial. I think it's more an issue of people not having the knowledge, not ever having been exposed to some of these terms or really understanding what they are. So anxiety and depression can manifest in a lot of different ways. Anything that's outside of the norm for you could be a symptom of anxiety or depression. A lot of times it looks like irritability, anger, being snappy with the people that you love. And, Lord knows we're in close quarters right now. So that's some of that's going to happen.
Tired of all of y'all in this house.
That's right. I want to look at somebody different. Um, Withdrawing, which that's a tricky one right now because we're all withdrawn also. So, but not really feeling like you want to reach out to people or feeling like you have to hide something, how you're feeling. All of those I think can be those subtle symptoms of anxiety and depression. Falling out, we're all out of our routine, but not really wanting to use your coping skills. Like if you know that going on a walk makes you feel better, but the last thing in the world you want to do is go on a walk, then that may be some depression. That may be some significant anxiety kind of brewing in the background. So I would encourage people to pay attention to those symptoms.
There may be some differences in how we normally shake it off.
Right. Exactly.
So my next question, and I think it's akin to a question that we have in the Q&A from Jessica, is what do you say to small business owners who are trying to maintain an unhealthy life balance? Like they're trying to do it all or do exactly what they did before the pandemic? Like what would be your kind of message to the do it all small business owner or the do it all entrepreneur right now?
Don't.
There you have it, people.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Yeah, gosh, you gotta, it comes back to for me, it comes back to giving yourself grace. Small business owners tend to be, I love working with small business owners because they tend to be really dynamic people. We tend to be, and I'll include myself in that. I've been a small business owner for over 10 years. So we tend to be very driven people. We tend to be people who get very excited about ideas. We tend to be people who really want to do in the world. This is something that I talked about when I facilitated a co-starters cohort. Like, we can't lose sight of the fact that we choose to be small business owners because we're passionate about something. Whatever we choose to put our time and energy into and take a risk around, that's us communicating, this is what matters to me. So when passion is driving what you're doing, it's very easy to overdo in times that you don't necessarily need to. So, again, I love like a 70-30 or an 80-20 kind of goal. I think good enough can be enough. If you have a day where you're functioning at like 60-70% right now, you're doing great. You're doing really, really good. And if you have days where it's less than that, that's okay too. Our systems, our brains and our physiological symptoms are responding to this whole situation as a threat. So there's a percentage of our brain and our system that's just trying to keep us alive. So we're not going to have as much energy to invest in our passion, to do workarounds in our small business. Right now may be a time of maintenance, or it may be a time of just sitting back and daydreaming or visioning about the future, or just kind of doing some self-care so that you can hit the ground running when and if things go back to normal, which
that is such a really, really good point. It's like the doing it all is kind of just another version of trying to act like things are normal.
Right.
So like
Right.
give yourself room to not do anything if that's what you need to do in order to kind of chill out, give your brain some time to know that, you're not necessarily in immediate danger, just let's slow it down. That makes a lot of sense to me. So Jessica's question, and again, if you're watching on Facebook and you have a question, I can see the Facebook Live, which is why I keep looking down. I promise I'm not rude. It's right there. Jessica's question was, for those of us wearing multiple hats, mom, business owner, wife, teacher, etc., how do you recommend scheduling no responsibility moments into our schedules?
Yeah, that's such a good question. I think that's another place where you're going to have to do the best you can. I don't have kids, so I I have so much compassion for parents who are trying to do this, because you might schedule that moment and then something happens with your kid and there it goes.
Yeah.
Um, the first thing I would say is do the best you can to make those moments a priority. Carve it out in your day, if it needs to be first thing in the morning or at night when the kids go to bed. um, it's pretty incredible how our screens can create feelings of responsibility. I'm sure as small business owners, we've all had the experience of like sitting up answering emails at like 10:30 at night. We got to really be careful about not doing that right now, and give ourselves, I really been recommending for people, like, have like a screen curfew or like a work curfew where, okay, after 7 p.m., anything that happens can wait until tomorrow. And that's regardless of what kind of work that you're doing. Really, leaning on your supports if you have them. If you have older kids, say you got to entertain your brother for 20 minutes. Like that's a totally okay move to pull. So, I think the biggest thing is prioritizing it and then kind of doing the best you can with it.
But we agree though that they're necessary.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh.
No
Absolutely.
responsibility moments. And I think that again is just kind of another way of saying what you're already saying, of we're trying to fit our regular life into our homes. And that's not even realistic when we think about it, because I can't run all over the city if I'm stuck in these walls. So that's, trying to react normally doesn't make sense. So I do have a question that I think is very important. And so Buddy, CEO of Creative, sent over a couple articles for me to kind of read through. And one of them talks a little bit about self-care culture, right? It has become the super trend, self-care, everything. We've got a self-care, whatever that looks like, for individual people. And so my question to you is, first on a broader level, aside from just right now, what do you think about self-care culture in general?
Yeah, I think that's such a tricky question. My observation is that when social media gets a hold of anything, it kind of tends to warp it. And I'm thinking about things like body positivity and even kind of some mental health concepts. I think that's definitely happened with self-care culture. It's important to look at what self-care is and what it's not. So self-care in the true kind of mental health sense is not necessarily you do you boo and like a glass of wine in the bath and that kind of stuff. I think that those behaviors can be really, really great and healthy. Like sometimes all I need in the world is like a hot bath and 30 minutes to myself. I think the focus has shifted too much to really superficial self-care and not looking at what are our underlying needs that make self-care such a necessity. In all of this, I've really been talking more with people about what I call like boring self-care. I'm talking about like flossing regularly. Are you trimming your fingernails? Are you like actually caring for this? It's really boring. It's not cute. You're not going to put it on Instagram, right?
No.
But that's the stuff that really gives us a sense of normalcy and gives us a sense of like we're doing the best we can. We're really actually taking care of ourselves. So, self-care is not cute. It's not pretty. It's not Instagrammable. Really true self-care is the stuff that requires an investment on your part in your relationship with yourself.
So not that people are wrong for, glass of wine and a bubble bath. But that's not necessarily the same for everyone. And it could be a little more basic right now than we normally try to.
Absolutely. And I would say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I would say that we got to be really careful not to look at things like that as like a cure-all. Like, oh, if I can just, take a bath and drink a glass of wine every night, I'll be totally fine. Well, really? Or is that a tool that you're using to numb out and not feel what you need to feel?
Yeah. So a comment here on the Facebook Live, I want to say while I see it, is that there's a lot of pressure, and this is from Lamar, there's a lot of pressure from those that support our businesses to be doing something at this time. And he's saying, I often find myself trying to develop something outside of what I want to do just to please everyone else. He was saying, I worked so hard before COVID that I want to just take this moment to unwind, relax, and prepare for reopening instead of developing content every day. I feel guilty if I don't please those that want something from me at this moment.
Yes.
So as a business owner, having this pull, and really, into Lamar's point, and Erica is like high-fiving that all day, or what I like to call Wi-Fi. He's saying this part, big this. And I think that as business owners, we do feel the pressure of, and Create and every other organization that supports small businesses are trying to help people figure out what they're going to do with their businesses in this time. But I do think that a lot of small business owners don't remember that doing nothing is an option, or planning a little further out as opposed to for tomorrow is also an option. So we've been trying to be very particular with people. And I remember Jessica in the very, very first days, that week of panic, I'm just saying to people, hey, we have to be realistic with ourselves and say, is it worth the energy? Is it worth the money? Is it worth all that we're doing to try to maintain something? And the truth of the matter is, it would be more beneficial for you and your audience if you looked a little further out. So what do you say to that comment? Does that sound kind of right? He actually is handling that way better than most of us.
Yeah, and if that's the Lamar, I think it is. He's a very wise human. So yes. It's beautiful.
Yes, Lamar's story.
Hi, Lamar. Yes. So I kind of just want to amen all of that. As a small business owner, you regardless of what you're offering, you kind of are your business, and people who are loyal to Target don't put the pressure on the owner of Target to like keep Target running. They go like they're interacting with Target. People who are loyal to your business, however, are going to put pressure on you to keep the business going or to keep the service in place that they really appreciate from you. And you're under no obligation to say yes to that. And this is where, one of my favorite words, boundaries, comes into play. We have to have boundaries, right? Hashtag boundaries. Boundaries are crucial to mental health. And, the small business owners that I've had some of the most respect for in all this are the ones who have been honest on social media about, hey, I can't do much right now. I'm using this time for rest, for Sabbath, for, to vision about the future. Yeah, to take care of myself, to be with my family. I'll see y'all when I see y'all. And, I think there's risk in that for small business owners. We're afraid that people are going to abandon us. But, the other risk that we run in not having those boundaries is that we're going to exhaust ourselves. And then when everything kind of ramps back up, we're going to be so tired. We may feel a little bit of burnout. We may have lost a little bit of our energy.
Honestly, I think that if people remember, and just when you bring up the point of it feels like a risk. And I always tell people, and if you need permission to take that risk, I'm going to attempt to give you that now. From a marketing perspective, it is wonderful when you can appear transparent and relatable to your audience. Yeah. And if there was never a time before to have room to do that, a whole global pandemic is definitely that opportunity to not have it perfect, to not get everything right, to not do all of the things that you normally would do. And so if you need permission, we definitely give you that permission, one, for yourself, but also because it could help your business. A lot of people respect businesses who are willing to say, hey guys, I'm a parent, or I had not been taking a break and I needed one anyway. So thank you, global pandemic. You know, it's not great for business, but it's great for my mind. You have permission to do that right now.
100%.
And your audience still 100% respect you. Like,
Yeah.
they may even like hold you on their shoulders, their digital social media shoulders, and be like, yes, you're our hero for showing us that it's okay to breathe for a second, or to take things a little slower, or not feel pressed to pivot or realign or do anything. It's like, nope, I'm just gonna chill out for a second. So here we have Buddy. He says, hi, Melissa.
Hi, Buddy.
We really appreciate you sharing your expertise with us. He says, my question, similar to Lamar's, we're all anxious to get back to normal, but sometimes we are unaware of unhealthy habits within the normal. Do you have thoughts about how we recognize the habits, that work against us, and use this situation to assess a healthier way of living?
Yes, such a good question. You know, the first thing I want to, I'll kind of go around the block to answer this question, but I think we really have to question this idea of returning to normal. I don't personally, and I say this with a lot of optimism, I don't see a future where everything just kind of snaps back into place and where, you know, we go back to the exact same normal that we knew previously.
Yeah, I don't know that that's possible.
I don't know it's possible. Yeah, this is a really transformative time.
Which is probably why he put the quotes around.
Right, exactly. Right. I think on some level, a lot of us are feeling that. And there's an anxiety to return to normal because it's familiar and because we can understand it. So I understand that, but the normal on the other side of this is going to look really different. I think. I don't know how it doesn't. So I think we kind of have to start by embracing the fact that we're looking ahead to a different kind of normal. I love this question. This is such a deep question about, you know, how do we assess what really works for us and what doesn't? We have such an opportunity right now to really hyper focus on how things make us feel. So, you know, we have fewer distractions in a way. Our worlds have gotten a lot smaller in a way. So we get to really focus on, you know, I do a lot of work with people on like food and exercise. Like, how do certain foods actually make me feel? What gives me energy? What do I digest really well? What kinds of movement and exercise make me feel great? Was there maybe a workout I was forcing myself to do previously that I'm now realizing that exhausts me, you know? And what's better for me is to like walk and do yoga. I don't know, whatever it is for you. So I would really encourage people, as they're able to use this time for reflection, to focus on how you feel, on what makes you feel. You know, my husband and I have both had the luxury of working from home and all this. And we both kind of named early on, like, I don't hate working from home. You know, wouldn't it be interesting if I had a day or two a week after this where I worked from home, where I was seeing clients from home? So, you know, I would want to give people permission to really entertain some different possibilities when we come out of all this. Of, you know, you don't feel pressure to go right back to your same routine. If things shift, then that's great. I think we all have an opportunity to really question our work-life balance right now.
You know, one of our co-starters grads and a good friend of mine, Erica Perry, she's on the Facebook Live I saw. She does a shift health coaching program, and you had mentioned like foods and how they affect you and that kind of thing. And so she has this 14-day reset cleanse, where in that, and I have gone through it because I'm something like a guinea pig. That's for you, Erica. But in that, it was kind of like, hey, we're going to kind of reset your body. And then when you reintroduce things into your life, you have a better way to see how they're really affecting you. So I think that that's exactly what you're saying is like, hey, guess what? You don't have to figure out how it affects you. And you're already stressed. You're already bogged down with all the things. You already are getting places late. All that stuff is already happening. It's like, this may be a good time to just understand how it's affecting your body and your mind, because I personally learned a lot during that 14-day reset cleanse. I have a Starbucks habit. And so my Starbucks, a couple of them are closed, and I'm dealing with that, you know, as best as I can. But one of the things I learned was I'm not a coffee person, so to speak, and I know that. But what I found and what I figured out in that 14 days is that I use that as a way to give myself something familiar when I'm feeling anxious. And so it
Mhm.
may not be, so I had to learn how to stop beating myself up about, oh, this is like a meal in a cup. It's so many calories. It's so many whatever. I said I was going to cut back. I said I wasn't going to spend $7 on coffee. All of those things. I had to learn how to give myself grace. It's like, I'm going here because I need comfort. I'm going here because I need to calm down, or because I'm maybe trying something new and that something new is like wearing me out and I need something. Like, it taught me so much. So I think it's important what you're saying to just remember that now is a good time, with Buddy's question, to say, how are things affecting me? And try to figure out how you maintain what you've learned, or how you prioritize what you've learned when you do start to go back to normal, whatever.
Right. I want to pick up on something you just said and kind of share one more thought. Like, whenever things go back to quote unquote normal, which we can all agree is, that's in big quotes,
Yes.
is it's okay to ease back in once we get there, right? Like, I think there's going to be a lot of pressure, especially on small business owners, to just like throw the doors back open on your business, like be there 24/7 so people can catch up with you, that kind of stuff. And I actually had this conversation with a co-starters grad the other day with Tiffany Martin of Ignite Cycle about how important it's going to be for us to ease back into life and
Yeah.
ease back into our habits. And I think in doing that slowly and mindfully, we're going to have the opportunity to decide, okay, this works, this doesn't work. This, I'm going to keep this piece, I'm going to discard this piece. Like you said, with your cleanse experience, you probably added stuff back in slowly, not just like all at once.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and we have the same opportunity here, I think.
So we have a comment on our Facebook Live from Autumn, who is also a co-starters grad and facilitator. She said, I love the concept of flow and finding flow in work. This season feels like the opposite of that. Instead of operating in proficiency, we're making moment by moment decisions in the most unusual environment without the being able to draw on prior experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I, so here's a question.
Mm-hmm.
And I have two questions, but I'm gonna try to make them make sense.
Sure.
In that, I closed my phone. Hold up, I'm sorry, I'm back. Facebook Live. I just out of habit, I closed it. But so, I think that as we are talking about already, for small business owners, normal will be redefined. Like and we don't have a clue right now what that definition is. And so I think maybe our first point here is we're thinking about ahead as far as we can, but really you can only do so much. And that's something that Jessica Moody has been saying a lot to people in our Refocus workshop is, hey, let's not think about next month, because we literally do not know what, like, we're pushing it to talk about next week. And that can feel very stressful. But even when let's fast forward however long everybody out there, your reality says that this is going to last. Because if I say how long I think it's going to last, some people are going to leave. They're going to be mad. But let's fast forward to whenever that point is, and things are closer to normal than they have ever been. I think that there's a new definition there, like you're saying. We know that that's evolving. My question in this is, how do we prioritize what things we will take into our new normal? Like, are there, for our mental health purposes, are we looking at change of hours? Because we recognize that maybe there are hours of the day that we just don't work well, or hours of the day that our children maybe are in a better headspace. And so, like, how do we potentially take what we've learned about ourselves and the balance of mental health in our business into the next wave of normal?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And the therapist in me is just saying, like, gosh, it depends, and that's never a satisfying answer. But I think that's going to vary from person to person quite a bit. And, the other thing that occurs to me as you ask that question is, like, I think answering that requires a lot of self-trust and knowing that whatever you decide it is, there's no external, need other than caring for those who are dependent on you. Like, you can trust yourself to make those decisions, even if it looks or feels a little weird compared
That
to
just
what you used
sounds hard.
to. Yeah, it's really hard. I think self-trust is one of the hardest things that we can engage in. Um, but every small business owner has exhibited a little bit of self-trust already in that you took the leap of faith to start your business, right? So you have the capacity to do that. And then I think just big boundaries are going to be there's going to be huge. My guess is that there are some small business owners out there who have realized, like, I'm really not a morning person, or I'm not a late in the day person. So my business hours are going to change, and my folks, my customers, my clients, my whoever are going to have to adjust and grow with me. That is a totally valid choice to make coming out of
How do
this.
you balance that with, I need these people so I can make money? And I think
Yeah.
that's the real tug of war. It's like, I want to put myself first. I want to put my family first. That's always been the case, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm not the consumer, right? So it's like this, like you said, and I guess the answer is what you just said, which is you have to trust that
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing for yourself is going to work out in the long run. But that's really a tug of war of, that's even a time management tug of war. Sometimes it's like, I know I need to go to bed, but I also know I need to get some work off my plate.
Right.
That's a big tug of war for a lot of people.
It is a big tug of war. And, I think, and I've experienced this in my own business, people want to go to counseling evenings and weekends. Where I want to be evenings and weekends,
Right.
not back at the office. Like,
Not
that's
listening to
nothing I'm
yourself.
interested in doing. And so that's something that's a fight I've kind of fought for years. And I just had to make the decision that, like, my day's done at 5:30. I go home and I don't think about it. And stuff comes up here and there. I think it's a real statement of integrity to make those decisions and then stick by them. And then there may be room for flexibility. Maybe it's, I could certainly see a situation where, like, one night a week I decided to stay at the office to kind of get those people. There may be some place where you compromise, but what you're not compromising on is your integrity. I think that's super important. To maintain. And this is the eternal struggle of the small business owner is,
Oh my gosh, yes.
how do I care for me and care for my business when those two things are in conflict? And ultimately, for the health of your business, you have to come first. You do have to come first.
Why are you attacking me, Melissa? All of these people in Zoom land and Facebook, you're telling my business. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm talking about myself too, so we're
And it's
all.
so funny that, and this was the point of that TEDx talk I did, it's so funny how so many of us have these feelings, but it's so rare that these conversations are on any level of platform. It's like we've mentioned, it's like, oh, hey, haven't seen you so long. How you doing? Oh man, struggling. Like that's the extent of what we say. But if when someone were to come to me and say, oh, I'm thinking of starting a business, I don't go, oh yeah, I'm struggling. I'm like, yeah, you should talk to resources.
Right.
But in a segue, what is the message to, because I know that business owners, we are figuring out what's happening with our current businesses. We're even considering new businesses because some of the evolution, some of the changes, some of the rules and restrictions are forcing us to consider other revenue streams or other ways of distribution and things like that. But for those people who are very young in their business, very new, and this is an unstable economy right now. I mean, unstable is even a strong word. It's just like, is maybe we call it roller coaster economy.
Sure.
Because it's like we have on seatbelts, but we still feel like we're gonna die a little bit. So for people who are very young, because I think that there's two levels. There's the, I just got started, I just decided I was gonna do this, and then boom, the whole world has on face masks, and they're all at home. And then you have people who have been in it for some years. So like your Lamars and like myself, like yourself, people who've been in it for a minute. What would be the message to those who are very, very early in their business and just really realizing in the first place that mental health has a part to play, and now they're in this craziness?
Yeah. So, a few things. I'm always a little bit of an optimist. So I'm always going to put kind of a rosy frame around it first, and then we'll get real, right? So the first thing I would say is, like, thank goodness that you're learning this early in your business development, right? because there are a lot of people who get 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road and all of a sudden stop and go like, I haven't cared for my mental health this whole time
Yes.
and I'm burnt out and I don't know what I'm going to do. So, I talk a lot with my clients about opportunities. So if you are young in your business, if you're early in your business, then you have the opportunity now to bake into your business design and your business model that your mental health is going to be cared for, and that's just a part of one of the values of your business and your business plan. So, as tough as this is, maybe there's a little bit of gratitude there that we have this opportunity right now. The second thing I would say to newer business owners is like, just do the best you can, and if this changes the plan for your business as far as a timeline or anything like that, it's totally okay to grieve that. And I think grief is a big unspoken piece of all this that everybody's feeling on some level. We're all grieving something. We're all grieving the cancellation of something. I was supposed to leave for Denver on Friday.
I'm grieving the cancellation of school.
Right, exactly. I'm grieving that, my kids don't have somewhere else to go, right? Like we can grieve that. Everybody's looking ahead to the summer and canceled vacations and, experiences that we wanted to have. Folks I've talked to have had to cancel their weddings.
Yeah.
Family reunions getting canceled, that kind of stuff. We're all grieving something. And if this changes what your business looks like for the next year or two, it's okay to feel really sad about that for a little while. Don't let it derail you because we still need your business, but you got to feel that.
Yeah. So because Create Birmingham works with a lot of artists, makers, and I know you spoke a little bit about how you have, clients who are kind of in that gig economy. And I personally have a host of artist friends, from painters to chefs to musicians to writers. And I know that a few of the people who are on our Facebook Live, especially, are people who are in a more creative space. Mm-hmm. And I think that, so I want to talk a little bit about, because one thing we always, kind of joke about at Create is that it's so hard to get creatives to realize they are business owners. Sometimes It's like, first, let's make sure when we say business owner, we're talking about you too, because though it's art and though, there's a different way to put that together, or, your focus is often on the creation of the thing. If you are selling it, if you are offering it, sometimes even if you're not selling it, if you're offering it to people, you're still considered a business owner for these purposes. So I want to talk a little bit though about what do we say to the mental health space of people who are artists and makers and who are musicians and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, what I tell people is that if you hope to make money, you are a business. So, I would just kind of echo that of like, yes, creatives are, if you hope to make a living off of your creativity, then yeah, you're a business. So for creatives, the thing that I kind of is like brewing in the background for me as we talk is like how important community is in all of this. Yeah. And I think we're realizing that more than ever as we are removed from our communities. So, especially creatives for whom, your pursuit can be very individual. It can be very, very solo in a way. I would encourage folks to create community and be having conversations together. Like, how are you really doing? How can we support you in your creative endeavor? We need creatives right now.
Yes, we do.
Oh my gosh. Look at what people did in the first weeks of all this. They turned to film, they turned to music, they turned to online streams, taking dance classes online, looking at visual art on Instagram. Like, we need creatives. Creatives are going to help us heal from this. So I would encourage everyone, but creatives especially, like, surround yourself with other people who are in this with you, who are in a similar place, and then have really honest conversations. Not just, how you doing? I'm fine. I'm struggling. Be vulnerable. Like, what are your fears? Find those people you can be open with in that way.
I do think too, this is kind of an invitation to creatives to be as transparent as they really want to be. I think sometimes creatives who are, working to make a business out of that art, find themselves feeling like they have to sacrifice some part of their art or sacrifice some level of their creativity. But right now is a great time for you to kind of take it as like, let it flow, because you're going to be able to showcase and do something that we normally would be like, oh, why are they doing all of that? But now people are like, please give me something to relate to. Give me something
Right.
to look at other than these four walls. Like, you know,
Yeah.
of course, according to my background, I'm on the rooftop in Birmingham, but so I'm
Right.
living that life right now in my head. But I think that that's a very good point, is that, you know, the way you said that was creatives will help us heal from this. Like artists, you all, and that's true, you are very much on the front lines right now, whether you recognize that or not. We're going to be looking to the art of this time. We're going to be looking to the writing of this time. We're going to be looking to what was created during this time. And I think that even if you are not in a creative business or you're not a creative entrepreneur, if you have something to create, do that, like let that happen. That's really, really important. A couple, let's see here, Facebook comments. Terry was saying, same for healing arts, so needed at this time, spiritual health. And Terry Ann does a really, really good job of helping people kind of just get in tune with their intuition. So pre-pandemic, I know she would do events just around being able to giving yourself permission to listen to your intuition. Like, and that's so hard to do when the world is noisy. So if you need practice, now is a really good time.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Um,
I know Terry as well. I've known Terry for a long time. She does some really beautiful offerings on social media. So this is a great time to tap into your intuition and your spiritual side and really nurture that. So, you know, connect with people who are offering that for sure.
yeah, and then Jerome, who is a photographer here in Birmingham, said sacrifice is basically all in our minds at this point. And I think that that's kind of, you know, and if you have questions, everyone who's listening in whatever platform, go ahead and get them out now, because we're about 15 minutes away from the end mark. And as I started on time to respect your time, I will end on time to respect your time. But to his point, you know, I do think that sacrifice is such a good word to pull in, because we have the sacrifice we feel like we're making of ourselves right now. As Lamar was saying, as business owner, as Jessica was saying, as, you know, parents, as teachers, like all of these things that we're trying to do, they all begin to feel very sacrificial. And I also want to bring up something we mentioned before we got started. You talked a little bit about body positivity and how you've had to, I want to, because those small business owners may not admit this to themselves or to anyone else, we get very wrapped up in our appearances, because we realize that we are a big part of our product. And that can weigh very heavily on us. So let's take a second and address small business owners and their mental health and their body positivity, and the fact that they may feel like, oh, I'm just at home eating.
Yeah. Okay, so rant incoming, because this is where I do a lot of work with people. A good chunk of my practice is eating disorder recovery and body image. So what I want to say around that is everything is different. So our bodies are most likely to change during this time. And think about, like, our eating schedules are different. You know, I'm not even walking out to my car to go to work in the morning, or like walking up the flight of steps at my office. Our movement patterns are so different. It would be totally unrealistic for us to think that our bodies are just going to like behave for us the way that we want them to during this time.
Yeah.
Our bodies are super wise and they want to communicate with us. And I think right now, a lot of our bodies are trying to say, like, this is weird and I'm doing the best that I can to take care of you, you know? And so within that, I think a practice of gratitude is super helpful around our bodies. Like, thank goodness I have this thing that is healthy, first of all, you know, when so many people around the world are living in fear of this, you know, potentially deadly situation, and are going to support us through till the end, till we can get back to a kind of schedule or routine that we really want to be in. So we got to start with gratitude. You've got to give your body a little bit of permission to change, because it's probably going to, no matter what you do. It might change a little bit, it might change a lot. And I think, again, there is room in certain fields to be vulnerable about that. in your marketing. You know, if you look a little bit different in your Instagram photos at the end of this than you did at the beginning, speak to it, you know, own it, give your audience permission to see that and see it normalized and not see it pathologized, but go like, hey, look, all our bodies changed, love y'all. You know, like it can stop there. It doesn't have to be about, you know, getting back to a certain point.
Right. Oh,
There's so much mindfulness.
because I know we're all going to be like, I got to get back to my pre-pandemic body.
I'm trying to watch my language here. That's nonsense. That's the word that I would use for that. That's nonsense. You don't, because the whole world has changed, and it's okay if your body changes along with it. In ways that you like, in ways that you don't like. I mean,
Melissa, I needed to hear that out loud. I needed to hear that out loud.
I mean, I'm having to tell myself the same thing every day. You know, I'm a very physically active person in my normal life. You know, yoga, I love Ignite cycles. Second shout out to Ignite. I do weights, I do all this stuff that I don't have access to right now. And my body's changing. And you know what? It was probably going to change. So we gotta kind of let that be what it is.
So is it worth it to be looking for, whether you were active before all of this or not, is it a healthy move to, of course, it's always healthy to be moving, but is it something that we should prioritize to find new ways to find a routine around our physical well-being? Because I know for a lot of us, and by us I definitely mean me, I mean I don't know who else I'm speaking for, I'm definitely talking about myself. I didn't have room in my life, or at least that's the excuse I gave Tiffany for not showing up at Ignite. I did not have room in my life, or didn't make room in my life for physical activity, because I always felt like as a business owner my day was never the same any particular day. The one thing when people always go, oh, do you miss, you know, your day job life? And I'm like, actually what I miss is having 2 15-minute breaks and a 30-minute lunch, because it paced how I ate. It paced, you know, when I got up and sat down, it paced at the end of the day was over, I could work out or whatever. Like it gave me a structure that's really hard to find when you're a small business owner, or it's really hard to create for yourself. So is this a good time for us to be looking for starting a new routine or starting something to try to make room for that in our lives?
I would say now's a good time to again, like really get curious about how things make you feel, and feeling good is a goal in and of itself. It's not a byproduct of like looking a certain way. It's not, you know, it's not secondary in anything. Like what we need to be looking for is like what makes us feel our best. This is, you know, if you have time and space to do so, like this is a time to play in your body and like find new ways to move and work out. And if that makes you feel really good and energized and is helping you cope, it may be worth something keeping as you move back into whatever the new normal is. So, you know, what I've kind of been preaching the last couple of weeks is like, how does it make you feel? You know, that's kind of all the information that you need. If it makes you feel really good, it's probably worth having in your life.
All right, I'm going to accept that when I do my pull-up order to Target with all the Easter candy that's left over.
No, it's important to distinguish what makes you feel good long-term.
Okay, clarify. I was about to go from Facebook and start adding to cart. Terry's point,
you can do. There's nothing wrong with that, but how does it make you feel long-term?
She goes, Terry was saying on Facebook, I think we all need to be careful on the amount of processed food and junk. Thanks, Terry. Isn't this a part of what we're trying to heal, this Mother Earth? And that's what she also said, junk food can only make you feel okay in the moment.
Yeah.
And so as we kind of come to a close, and if you have any other questions, I keep closing the phone out of habit, y'all. And if you have any last questions, we do have just about like 5 or 6 minutes left. More like 7 or 8 minutes, but I do want to, you know, I'm going to put you on the spot just a bit. If you had, I'm going to put you in a scenario.
Okay.
If you were suddenly at one of the White House briefings and it was your job to address all small business owners and their mental health.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to not warn you this is going to happen, because I just thought
Okay.
about just now. You're welcome. But
No, I just got a little triggered about thinking about being at a White House briefing.
yeah,
What she
I
said.
cheated on whether that was a good place to put you in the first place, but this is the best way I can draw the picture. So let's say that it's just you, nobody else is there,
Okay.
and the press. That's it.
Okay.
And it was your job to kind of give a message about mental health and being a business owner during this time, and thinking about now, thinking about the future, thinking about our bodies, thinking about our minds. What would be your kind of core message to us all? And especially since you're very optimistic, I'm sure there's going to be a heavy thread of hope. What would be that message from
Yeah.
you to all of us?
I would say first and foremost, you're doing great. You're doing the best you can in one of the strangest situations of the last 100 years. So it's really important to keep perspective on what it is that's going on right now, and the fact that, we're all just hanging in there. Um, I would say to small business owners, how you feel is so important and is so primary right now. Um, and I would encourage people to really keep boundaries around how they feel, and caring for self, because that's not always a luxury that we get as small business owners. Um, I would also say, like, whatever it is that you do in the world and what you offer, we need you. So please, do whatever it takes to maintain your hope, maintain your momentum, maintain your focus on what you offer, because it's necessary. There's a reason you're passionate about it. It's because what you do matters. So, I would encourage people to find their own hope around this, and to really just focus on, like, yourself, your care, so that you can come back and serve in the way that you are meant to serve.
Well, thank you. I won't be like the press and ask you a bunch of crazy questions. So before we officially wrap up, I do want to invite everyone to, if you do need an opportunity to just vent and whine, literally we have an event we do weekly on Thursday nights with Jessica Moody, our director of programs, that's called with Jessica, and that's WHINE, wine, as in, it doesn't matter what you drink when you come, it's not that kind of wine, unless that's what you want. But we do have a space to vent and then kind of come together on how you come out of some of those things. That happens on Thursday nights at 8:30. You can find that on the Facebook or at createbirmingham.org. Also on Tuesdays in April, we are doing the Refocus workshop. If you are trying to figure out how to pivot or change or rethink about who your audience is, what their new problems are, your new solutions, all of that, we do that from 2 to 4 on Tuesdays right now. And we're trying our best to get as many conversations going that are helpful to all of us during this time. So I have to thank you. Lamar is saying thank you both. Miss you, Melissa Scott-Dixon, great information and much needed. And a lot of thank yous coming from Buddy and from everyone, Celia. Let me also say thank you, Melissa, for taking this time with us. We really, really appreciate it. Really appreciate all the work that you are doing to help any business owner, because ultimately, hopefully we all help each other along the way. So thank you so much for taking this time with us. Any last words before we close it up?
Just take care of yourselves. Y'all are all doing a lot right now, whether you realize it or not. So take care of yourself and give yourself grace.
Grace is so important. A lot of thank yous on Facebook. Thank you, Facebook group, for everyone for watching. Thank you, everyone here in the Zoom. And you all have a wonderful, wonderful day, as wonderful as you can make it, or as not wonderful as you like it to be. It's up to you. Have a great day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.